Hello, my name is Ryan Dow, and welcome to My Fellow Cartoonists, an interview series where I offer an opportunity for cartoonists to pry themselves away from their drawing boards and socialize like human beings. Today's episode features Stephen Stwalley. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing all right. This is my third attempt at making an episode here, so hopefully I'm learning a little bit. We shall see. You've been going through a lot of changes in your life lately, right? I mean, you've got a new project starting on Friday.
Yeah.
Pretty soon here. Well, actually, this might be in the past by the time I'm doing this. So what day is Friday? I never know what day it is today. So
Friday the 13th, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the day I'm choosing to launch my Kickstarter.
That's, okay. Good luck with
it. Thank you.
All right, so Friday the 13th we're starting. I don't know when this is going to get released. I still have to release one more next Monday, so
okay.
Maybe I'll get it out pretty soon here. And yes, it's called Squirmish, and it is about monsters fighting each other, as far as I know.
It's the card game of Brawling Beasties. So
all right.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, got into Pokemon a few years back, or probably like 2 years ago. And that just how that game is a failure inspired me to do something or how I perceive it to be a failure.
Yeah.
Inspired me to do something that I thought was a lot more fun.
Well, that's a good starter for conversation. How do you consider it a failure?
Well, I mean, clearly kids love it, but most kids who love it don't play it. They like the cards and they like to look at them, but of my daughter's friends at school who collect the cards, very few of them are interested in actually learning how to play the game.
I was kind of like that as a kid, too. Like, I would, partly because I was like, I don't know, I had like a class of 16 and I didn't have any friends. So I would get game cards like, there was some Marvel game a long time ago. I don't know, it was like Marvel Legends or something, like, and I just looked at them and like looked at the numbers and I kind of made up my own version of solitaire with it.
And I've got no problem with collecting it. Something about it seems kind of sad when you've got all this potential for a really fun game.
Yeah.
And then people are just not doing that with it at all, I guess.
So is it like, is it just too complicated? Is it not fun?
Pokemon, I think, is way too complex, and a lot of stuff just bogs down the gameplay. So, and the game I made really isn't very much like Pokemon, other than it's got monsters fighting each other. But the game itself, Pokemon is just not very fun, so it wasn't the basis for how to play the game.
What is it that makes this game fun, then?
Hopefully, I made it so the gameplay is really pretty simple. You draw a card from the deck. You have up to 5 cards in your hand. It's basically 4 steps. You draw a card, you place a card, and then you move or attack with a card, and then finally you resolve a card's special abilities. And in the meantime, you're building a bunch of cards in the middle of the table, which are in a group called the Squirmish.
Okay.
So the cards are connected to each other, and they can attack cards that are adjacent. So cards to the left, right, top, or bottom. And you basically want to get 5 of the cards, 3 of the cards in your victory pile to win the game. So
so you get 3 cards in the victory pile. What determines the victory pile, like? I'm sorry if you already said that, but I'm trying to follow this.
Each player has their own victory pile. So you decide what card you want to attack another card, and then you roll a die to see what their basic attack does.
Oh, okay.
And that generally takes damage, takes hit points off of another card, which you keep track of the damage with damage counters. We use pieces of cereal for that usually, which seems to work
better than
well.
Pad of paper.
Yeah. So we definitely recommend using like round cereal to keep
like
track
Cheerios.
Of damage. Cheerios work great,
or Spooners, or whatever the generic variant is,
or Fruit Loops if you're feeling wild.
Yeah. So that's great. So basically, like So essentially, there's a dice roll. Is there like any kind of modifiers on the cards or anything like that?
Yeah, that's where the complexity of the game comes in. Is from the cards all have special abilities, and some of them also have group abilities, and those do all kinds of different stuff. basically it adds a whole level of craziness to the game.
So, like, when they have group abilities, like, what kind of groups are there in these?
Well, my favorite group is probably the Spooner Valley Cryptids, which has a Fig Boot and Quaz Scotch and the Knockless Monster.
Nice.
And some other. And then there's the Fraternal Order of Strange Fellows and the Kitty Cat Club and the Biscuit Sisters and the Gravy Brothers. So lots of really silly characters.
Yeah.
And then also, when you place a card, you can get +1 to your attack by saying a quote that's at the bottom of the card, which is their battle cry. So if you say that in a silly voice when you place a card, then you get +1 to your damage or your healing ability on your card.
Okay. So some are healing, some have healing abilities, some have attack abilities.
Yeah. And then usually if you roll a 6, it'll be something extra good.
Okay. So it's like rolling a 20 on like D&D or something like that. Yeah,
pretty much.
Natural 20, natural 6.
Uh-huh.
So, all right. So basically it's just kind of a somewhat simpler, somewhat more goofy version of Pokemon. It's not like, rather than have a system that's like, all built around elements and like, water, earth, fire, like.
Yeah, it's much more straightforward than that.
Yeah.
And also, one of the things I find frustrating about Pokemon is that you've usually got 2 cards that are fighting each other and 4 or 5 cards in your bench that are just sitting there. And this kind of makes it so all your cards can fight at the same time.
Nice.
Choose whoever you want to battle with that turn. So I think that's fun.
Yeah. All right. And you've been, you've gone on the dark side and you've gone on Facebook. I saw that. I was, after a long absence, after trying to like, burn your bridges with Facebook as much as possible. Was it mostly like for marketing the card game or?
Yeah, it was mostly for crass marketing purposes.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm on there too.
Become inevitable, I think. Or hard to avoid.
Uh-oh, the Facebook cops are coming by.
Yeah.
I don't know if the audience can hear that.
But yeah, I mean, it is nice to catch up with people, certainly.
It is.
I just wish there was a better venue for it than Facebook. But
yeah, I mean, Facebook for some reason, like that seems to be where a lot of my friends are basically. It's, I try not to look at the numbers because like that can be such a drain because it's like I might be able to get like, oh, hey, I got like 12 likes on this comic. That's awesome. And then I like look at, my cousin's like posted a picture of Culver's and it's got like 99 likes. I'm like, yeah.
It definitely, it brings out the worst in a lot of people too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain level of like managing the data and not trying to get too addicted to it. Cause like, I definitely, there's a lot of like, okay, these are people I was friends with, or not even friends with, like people who went to my same high school. And it's like you kind of find out, what rural America is like now. It might have always been like that. Maybe I didn't know at the time, but it's like, guns and motorcycles, It's like people inviting me to join their page where they're like selling, specially camouflaged shotguns and things like that. And I'm like, I guess I'll just unfollow. I don't know.
So speaking of that, I was talking to my daughters tonight about I think you're old enough to have lived through a little bit of this, maybe not.
Yeah.
In the 70s, there was a big cultural phenomenon around CB radios. And I just wanted to find out if they even knew what a CB radio was. Of course, they had no
I think,
idea. And truckers.
I mean, well, yeah, there's truckers, but I kind of knew people who were into ham radios a little bit. Like, I know I went to this, we did this like, there was some kind of running-a-thon and like there were people that were like specially in charge of ham radios and things like that. And I don't think we ever, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to remember if we had CB radios in any of our trucks or tractors or anything like that. I don't think we did. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you like have a CB radio in your home and like try to contact your friends?
No, I had a toy CB radio.
Oh, okay.
And at one point we did a moving trip where we had a CB radio in the car. So we were when I was a kid, we were talking about truckers on that, which was fun. But yeah, there were like lots of movies about truckers and TV shows.
Well, I think it's not like that kind of stuff has gone away. Like, I mean, I'm sure it hasn't. I don't know.
No, but it was huge in 1977, 78.
Yeah, but it's funny because like it's funny how a lot of stuff like that has to do with transportation doesn't really change that much. Like you look at planes and they've still got the phones with the cords on them, and like, you know, they've got the dashboards with 1,000 dials on them, and even with things like audio microphones, like the jacks are still the same a lot of times.
Well, I mean, I would think truckers probably use mobile phones at this point. But I don't know.
I guess you're probably right. I don't know. Well, I don't know. It seems like sometimes they have to like contact, you know, I mean, I've been through a lot of areas where there's like a lot of trucker stops and stuff like that. So I think like maybe they have to like radio ahead for, you know, waiting. I don't know. I don't know how we got on this topic here. Because I know anything about trucking. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
It's the camouflage thing that set me off on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
just thinking about small town culture.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like I'm in a city now. So it's like I've become this liberal person, and I'm surrounded by liberals, but I don't know if I was ever super conservative. Like, I mean, a lot of it has to do with like all the talk radio in there, like, because it just seemed like that was all our tractors could pick up, like, was Rush Limbaugh and stuff like that, which is weird that he's still around. Like,
I think he's on his last legs.
Because I mean, he was. I
heard something about him getting canned or something.
Well, he was doing radio when I was a kid. Like, I mean, he's been doing it for like 30 years at least. Like, that's. I mean, wouldn't he run out of stuff to talk about at some point? It's not like his show was like really like, I don't know. I think his show used to go on for hours on end.
I think he's a bottomless well of talk.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Substance is another thing, but talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember a teacher calling him Rush Limbaugh, and back then I didn't really realize that like there was anything wrong with him. I mean, I don't know. When you're a kid, he speaks with such confidence, and there's really no other outside viewpoint. So, I don't know. But then again, I don't think I was ever super interested in politics either. And I do come from a teacher of families, so there's a little bit of like liberalness in there. But yeah, I mean, it is weird because like it's almost like there's like these two separate worlds that don't really talk to each other that much, or at least like I
think most people have a lot more common ground on all sides of the political spectrum than they realize.
Probably. I mean, I don't know.
I think most people, if you ask them, are disgusted with the state of our government.
Oh yeah,
regardless of what they think the solution to that problem is.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird because like anytime I've done like political cartoons or anything like that, it's always been like extremely broad strokes. And I do follow politics more now. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like I'm one of those people that like attended a primary for the first time because of Bernie Sanders. Like it made me realize like, oh hey, I can actually like participate in this, because I think that's kind of the problem with politics on Facebook is like, it gives you the illusion of participating. Like,
Well, I think that's true with the internet in general. Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh, I'm spreading this message out. You know, we're having a national conversation, and it's like that's not actually doing anything. Like,
but I think it's true and it's not true. Yeah.
I mean, it is to some extent, but like, I feel like one of the things I volunteered for was the Democratic National Convention thing, or the Democratic convention thing where they actually vote on, you know, amendments to their Democratic Party. It's like the DFL. It's Democratic Farmer Labor Party meetup, and it sounds really boring, and it kind of is. But basically, like, there's 146 things. Like, this is what the Democratic Party is going to, you know, vote on to see if we want to do these things. Like, do we want this to be part of our party? And like, they're probably only going to send along 46. So you basically check yes or no. But like, I actually felt like I was doing something there. Like it probably wasn't, you know, it's like infinitesimal, but you know, like I'm actually voting on here. You know, I actually took the effort to show up someplace, you know, And,
well, I always think it's interesting that people get so worked up about presidential elections and then forget about the elections in between.
Well,
which really, when you're voting for your local politicians, you probably have a lot more effect on your world than voting for national politicians where, I mean, the game's pretty obviously rigged.
Well, and also, I mean, I think this is like part of my learning about politics right now is just like realize. I think 2010 elections were kind of a big thing for me, where it's like, oh, it was starting to realize like, oh, we got a lot of these Tea Party people into the House, and this is, and that was when after that it was like they were actually like not operating the government, like they were threatening to shut it down regularly, and it's like, oh, maybe I should vote more than just every presidential election. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying not to make politics my new religion, but... That said,
I totally forgot to vote last year. It was not on my radar, and I missed it.
I might have forgotten, too. I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to get better at it. And it's frustrating, because it's like... I don't know. I think I'm always drawn to... activities which seem pointless, like cartooning. No, I'm just kidding. But like this sort of, I think like part of what I liked about Buddhism was there was no promises with it at the time. It was very much like, well, if you sit and meditate, something might happen kind of thing. Like it was this sort of long, boring, thing that, you may not get anything out of. And I'm kind of feeling the same way about politics. Cause I feel like there's this sort of entertainment side of politics. And this, I don't know, this could be just me being naive and just learning things and everything seems exciting right now. But like there's sort of the entertainment side of politics, which is, that's what Facebook is about. It's about, you're talking about politics like it's your favorite television show, essentially. Like, can you believe what happened in last night's episode? Like,
certainly Donald Trump is the
exactly.
He has turned it into a complete reality show.
Exactly. And I mean, and maybe it's been that way for a while. I don't know. Maybe I'm just noticing it now, but like the thing that's frustrating to me is like how much people will talk about politics but like won't actually show up to vote. And I mean, I've probably been just as guilty about that, but like, I'm trying to do more than talk. If that makes sense.
Good for you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's more of a, so even like now it's like, I don't know what to do anymore with the elections now that the primary's over in Minnesota. So I'm just I'm kind of in hibernation mode because I'm like, I follow the political stuff a little. Like I do follow the entertainment side of politics. Like it's hard not to because it's so ridiculous. Yeah.
So do you think Bernie Sanders is going to get the nomination?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. There is.
I think it's likely.
It's possible. Like there's a funny like. I want to say college humor where they do this thing called Bernie math, which in some ways it's not totally fair because it's like they portray it like, well, we don't count the super delegates because we don't like them. But I mean, I do kind of get like with the super delegates, it's like, they'll vote in the majority probably, maybe, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because I look at I check Google regularly for the primary updates.
I do too.
And they put the super delegates right on the top. So it looks like Hillary Clinton has this enormous lead.
Yeah.
And really she's only like 200 or 300 delegates ahead of the real delegates.
Yeah. And that's the other part of like learning about politics is just sort of realizing like how the primaries work and how just how volunteer driven it is. Like and like just like it's interesting to me that it's like we've got this political system and people are always complaining about like, well, there's only two parties, but it's like, man, I didn't realize how much those two parties did. Like just. I always was wondering, like, there was a part of me that was wondering at some point, like, why is it that all these politicians are spending so much time raising money, Because, I mean, I got that with super PACs and stuff like that, they need a war chest because, like, in the last week or so, somebody can run a bunch of negative ads in a close election and win it or something. But it's like, does every, like, politician need to do that? And, like, now I'm finding out, they're raising money for the entire party. Yeah. So it's like, oh, it's not just that they're raising money for their own election. They're raising money for other elections within their own party, like close ones and stuff like that. So, and maybe like I'm just stupid and I just realized that, but like,
I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that people have no idea about. Probably.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. Anyway, that's enough of our political. It's weird because like sometimes I think part of the reason I started this show is that like I'm in like an isolation point where I'm like spending times either working on comics or just kind of like I'm either at work or I'm at home, and when I'm at home I'm not really talking to anybody, so like I don't really get the chance to talk about politics too much. So I just kind of opened up there.
The Enough Fun comics you're doing are awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I've really been enjoying those.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like been me trying to have more fun with making comics. And I think we've talked about this. I think I've talked about this in past episode. It's like a one panel comic that I'm doing. Basically I'm doing 5 of them a week, and one of them's put on Patreon, and and
you'll alternate that with Captain Sadness, right?
Yeah, Captain Sadness, which
is like the anti-comic, basically.
Maybe.
Because the punchlines are all sad.
Yeah. Although sometimes like they're funny sad, but sometimes I just like I'm just gonna like lay out a completely depressing thing about usually involving my life at this point. Like I don't know. It's weird because like Captain Sadness is the one that I kind of like, I get a lot of pushback on every once in a while.
I bet, yeah.
Even like from my like parents and stuff, like, like maybe you should just focus on doing the fun, happy comment. Like
this does not surprise me a bit.
It really, I don't know why it surprises me. Like it's,
because it's bleak.
Well, I think the thing is like part of it's, yes, it's bleak, but like the reason it exists is I'm hopefully trying to find a way to destigmatize depression, and that might be too ambitious.
Finding the humor in deep depression, I think, is a valuable thing. That's
been very valuable for me. I mean, because there was a point in my life where I thought, like, man, I thought I was going to be depressed, like just deeply depressed, like for the rest of my life. I mean, we've talked before in the past, like you've seen me like in some pretty bad states. And I'm doing a lot better now, I think. And yeah, it's just, I think the whole idea, and I was actually going to do, like, I was thinking about just doing a recording of this, just to explain what it's about, because there's some people, like, I don't think they quite get why I'm doing it. Because it's really about, like, it was really hard for me to talk about depression in any part of my life. Because, I mean, there's a stigma about it. It's not fun to talk about. It can kind of be this, like, swirling vortex that, like, just drains people and stuff like that. I get why people don't want to talk about it, like, on some level. So it was trying to find a way to make it somewhat appealing enough that people would listen. I mean, I was doing depression comics before, but I was starting to get a little bit of feedback to where it was like, I think it was getting too intense. Some of the stuff I was doing, like more autobio depression comics, like, yeah.
Are you going to do more introspective comics?
I've got some stuff written for it, but I don't know.
I do miss them.
Okay. It's weird because like, I don't know. I've been focusing so much on doing Enough Fun lately that been just most of my drawing time has been going into that. I have a few ideas written down, but it's like they take so much time to do. Yeah. And I want to finish. The thing is, like, I think I'm about halfway to 3/4 of a way through a book for that. So I'd kind of like to finish a book for that, because I think there was some stuff I was working on that I think I was really good, relatively good. I don't know.
Well, the Psych Ward comics you did, I thought were some of your best work.
And I did put that in a book. Like,
I'm not up to date on your book.
No, it's okay. I mean, the third book, I mean, it just kind of, hit the, I don't think I had a funny enough title for it, or, it's like, it's been harder to sell. And
Buddhism's such a good hook.
Well, yeah, but this, yeah. And that's the weird thing with my comics right now is I'm sort of, I feel like I'm trying to transition away from Buddhism a little bit. I mean, I was kind of doing that anyway. And, cause I just don't feel like I don't feel like I'm follow it anymore. Like I don't feel as tied to it as I used to. I think that my beliefs have changed a lot, like in terms of like what I think about, and I think I'm a lot more concrete than spiritual now. So,
well, I don't think Buddhism requires you to have it as a belief system either to
no,
benefit from it.
I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's tricky because I think the more you get involved in it, like there can be more. It's weird because it's a religion that can be kind of hard to, it is a religion because there's some spooky mystical stuff that goes on, like transference of dharma and stuff like that. And also I think there was just, I think, all right. I think basically going through a breakup, like I basically kind of broke up with a very spiritual person. And I think I've gotten like so sick of the spiritual world. Like there's a side to the spiritual world that I really don't like. And when I mean spiritual world, like I'm talking about the kind of people who would show up at, Buddhist temples and centers and stuff like that. Like, even though I'm kind of liberal, like there's parts of it that I think are kind of anti-science. Like, I mean, it's just, how do I explain it? I mean, there's a part of it that gets extreme. Like it can go extreme, when it's not in check. Yeah. And I was writing a lot of comics about it because it was kind of more part of my life back then. But I think, what do I want to say? I think there are people who try to make spiritual stuff real. Like they really believe in ghosts and like spirits and, like God. Yeah, it's like, it's not, like it's like they really believe in ghosts. Like the ghosts are there. They're just a different form of reality kind of thing. Like, and that stuff has never interested me at all. Like I guess I've always been more interested in like, psychological aspects, more interested in like, I'm not interested in like the divine and stuff like that because I think at some point it can become a haven for abuse. But I mean, if people start believing stuff, like it can become very cult-like. I've seen it become cult-like in some people, like extreme people. And we call them extreme, but they don't think they're extreme. Like I don't know if anybody really knows if they're being extreme when they're extreme. But like I was knowing a lot of people that were believing in, they were just believing in like, that they were, that they were aliens and stuff like that. And that like they needed to purify their body. And then
I think the real problem is belief.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like, don't believe things 100%. Use probability of possibility.
Honestly, that's kind of
like ghosts. Yeah, they could be real. I'll say 30% maybe.
I'd go lower with ghosts, but I don't know. The whole thing didn't make too much sense to me.
I mean, aliens on this planet, maybe I'd say 10%. but aliens in the universe, that's probably 90%.
Yeah, although aliens is kind of frustrating because people will say it's arrogant not to believe in aliens, but it's like they somehow go from like the more general you make aliens, like the more possible they are. But then like suddenly you start talking about flying saucers and like weird sounds in the night. And like, it's like, oh, well, now you're not talking about like any kind of alien anywhere in the universe. It's like, now you're talking about something specific that takes the odds down.
but there's a real problem with the human need to believe things.
I think so.
Believe that they know things that can't be known. Like belief in God, for example. You can't know that. You can believe it strongly, but to think 100% this is something that exists.
If there's one thing that like I've been thinking about doing comics again with the introspective comics, it's about something like I've been calling positive doubt. Because I think doubt tends to be viewed as a negative thing. And it can be like if you're if you're somebody who's generally a positive person, you know, and optimistic, and doubt can be kind of something that gets in your way. Like, you know, oh, I don't know if I should really do this or whatever, you know. But I think if you're somebody who's very negatively minded and very depressed, doubt is a lot more positive, because I know, like, I have friends that are where it's like, you know, they think that nothing's ever going to change, like, or, you know, the human race is going to die out in 100 years, or, you know, like they're really sure that the human race, you know, like, one thing I do believe, I don't think we're going to know when we're going to die out. Like, I think communication systems are going to break down, and, you know, I don't think we know, I mean, unless ghosts are real, I don't think we're going to know when human race dies out. Like,
we already died shortly after the bomb was invented, I'm sure. Yeah,
something like that. Or, you know,
it must have already happened. It's
or like we're not going to know somebody's still in Australia somewhere. Like,
well, my point is, how could the world possibly be here after the nuclear bomb was invented?
Yeah.
How could humans have survived that?
I don't know. We must have some good judgment. I don't know. But, yeah, it's just, I find that, like, especially if you're in a depressed state, it's just like you think nothing's ever going to get better. And then, like, that's where doubt can come in and be more positive, because it's like, you don't really know that. You know, and it might not, who knows, but, like, you don't really know that. You think you know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think doubt is humanity's best friend.
It's weird because, like, I know so many people where they just don't think that way. And I don't know if it's just a way that people are wired or a personal preference. But, like,
I think it is how people are wired. People have a strong need to feel like they know things they don't know.
Because nothing, like, sets me off, like, more on, like, a, like, paranoid, like, I don't know about paranoid, but, like, nothing, like, makes me more skeptical or suspicious when somebody's like, oh, it'll all work out. This will work great. What problems are we going to have with this? Like, and maybe it's just because I've been working in IT too long, and just have, like, people, oh, this new software will be fine. It'll be fine. You know, like, I'm more like, oh yeah, there's going to be problems. We'll try to work them out. Like,
yeah, that's much more practical.
Yeah. I tend to be a practical. I kind of a practical person. I think sometimes I've thought of it as a character flaw because I'm not a dreamer necessarily. I don't know.
Well, you've got to have some dreamer in you to make as many comics as you have.
Probably.
For the kind of money that one makes making comics. You know.
Well, I mean, there is definitely, like, a aspect of it that's not about money. Like, I don't know. I've been getting weirdly existential when it comes to comics and money lately. Like,
well, yeah, because going into comics for money is obviously a serious tactical error.
I mean, there's so many reasons. Like, and part of it's also that I've got a day job that I'm fairly, you know, I'm doing okay financially right now. So it's like I don't really need the money as much, you know. But at the same time, if I wanted to do something more ambitious, like print a book in color or something, like that can get expensive really fast. And it's like, well, maybe if I ask for money then, and then it's like, well, do I have a big enough audience, you know, to actually get that money? Should I really ask these people? Because I'm probably asking people who have less money than me or something. Maybe, I don't know.
I think most of the best cartoonists are compelled to do it, whether or not there's anything beyond the reward of doing it.
Well, and it's weird because I'm doing so much digitally now. It's like I'm not really spending much more than time on making the comics, and you know, so I don't have as much expenses as I used to. You know, like I just have the tablet and my computer, and you know, I don't really need to use the scanner anymore.
So are those Enough Fun comics getting a lot of feedback? It seems like
they
would be pretty broadly appealing.
Well, they do roughly. Like, I don't know. And this is, I mean, I get like maybe like I think at the most it gets like so many likes and stuff like that. And it's always hard to tell too because like there's a certain amount of people who are probably reading them and like I don't know about it. Like in some ways, like they're seeing them on Facebook and not liking it, and that's fine, like whatever. But you know, it's like I don't know. I never quite know how big my audience is, especially when I was just doing like once or twice a week webcomics, because people were reading that stuff more in books. And so it's like, I didn't know how many, like, it's hard to gauge how many fans I have. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know that people are reading stuff, which is interesting. Like, that's the other thing too, is like, I'm at the point where people actually, I know people are reading these comics, like, but I don't know if it's enough to, I mean, it's not enough to make a career out of it.
Are you getting a lot of people reading it on the unfortunately named Tapastic?
I get a fair amount, yeah. And I get people, like, new followers that way, yeah. Tapastic is like a service you can put comics on, and it's, I don't know.
I put some stuff on there. I was posting there for a while, and I was getting a lot of people reading stuff that had never read the stuff before. So
well, and honestly, confession time, I hadn't really read much of the strip mall strips you've been doing until you started putting them on Facebook again. Because it's...
I think you can keep posting stuff forever because you're always going to find new people who haven't read what you've done before, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, and I don't think I fully understood what kind of a comic it was until, like, I started from the beginning. Because there's sort of a continuity, but not really sometimes. Like, I don't know.
It's a pretty casual continuity.
Yeah. It gets almost a little bit soap operatic in the sense of, like, there'll be, like, a little story that goes on, like a little A story, and then there's a B story, and then there's a C story, and they might not never really connect at some point, but yeah. Because
that's the other major project. Well, I'm working on a couple projects with my friend Ben Smith, who's also known as Del Dracula on Twitter. Well, and Strip Mall is one of them, and then the other one is Cyclops Monkey Rampage, which they're at webcomics with an X for the ICS. webcomics.org/stripmall and webcomics.org/Cyclops Monkey Rampage. And they're ongoing comics by Ben and I that we were initially drawing over our lunch breaks.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Unfortunately, we have really slowed down since we
don't have the lunch breaks.
We no longer have lunch breaks together, but we're still working on them.
So what was that again? Monkey, something monkey.
Cyclops Monkey Rampage.
Rampage.
We decided to start two at once.
Okay.
For some reason. So we just because we were passing them back and forth. So we'd be working on one page and then. So Strip Mall is about a bunch of weird characters who work in and habitate around a strip mall.
Yeah.
Like a cigarette shop and a health food store that isn't so healthy, comic book store, a laundromat, and a plant shop, a typewriter repair shop, and a donut shop, as well as a space for rent, and how these people interact with each other. And then Cyclops Monkey Rampage is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, what is it then? Is it like a Cyclops monkey, or is it like a non sequitur?
Three Cyclops monkeys.
Oh, okay.
That go on crazy and traumatic adventures together and get into trouble and get horribly maimed and injured.
It's funny because, like, when I was starting, the idea of, like, Enough Fun comics, like, I was thinking about just making the title some kind of stupid non sequitur, like like Pirate Monkey Owl or something, like, or not Pirate Monkey, but like Pirate Owl something, or like just right, because it just seemed like so many webcomics I was reading, like they're just like Owl Turd comics, or it's just like
monkeys work well. There are
yes.
Ben's last comic with me was a Monkey's Paw.
Yeah.
So. Which we actually completed. That one's was like 80 episodes online or something like that. So
yeah, I don't think I've read through all of it yet because it was kind of more sort of goofy horror theme kind of thing.
Yeah, it was primarily like inspired by different horror tropes.
Yeah,
like zombies and Frankensteins and werewolves and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Frankensteins.
Frankensteins. Let me think here. What else is this is probably the part that I cut out because I'm like, my brain stops working for a second.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
It's your podcast.
That happened a lot, like, with Dan. I was just like, But yeah, let's see here. Is there anything else? One thing I'm gonna stop doing is, I'm going to stop asking why comics because I think I already covered that here. And also, I think I'm going to stop because that was something I did in the last couple episodes. But I think that's what I meant when I'm saying I'm get like existential about comics because it's like, why do this?
Can't help it.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. I mean, I've sort of solved it for myself to some extent because I do feel like good when I've finished a comic, you know, and
it's the world's greatest art form. That's why
it is. It's a pretty good art form, and you know, it's good for people who, you know, you don't necessarily need to collaborate, but you can if you want to. And yeah, it's
and I mean, I think there are very few art forms that give you such an intimate relationship with the authors, where you're really inside what they're thinking. Because, I mean, most comics are made by one artist. It's not like a TV show or a movie where it's like a whole crew of people putting something together.
Well, even if it is, like, it's a very small crew. It's like an artist, maybe an inker, or, you know, maybe a colorist.
Or a writer and artist or whatever.
Yeah. They're just kind of...
It's much more personal than most storytelling mediums. I
mean, it's funny because somebody was asking a while back, like, how, if you could change the comics industry, what would you do? You know, kind of questions. And I think one of the things that kind of frustrates me a little bit with comics is it's like also, like sometimes I think the thing I love about comics might be the thing that makes comics not popular, like the auteurs and, you know, like the idea of there being an auteur instead of being like a packaged product, like that's made for mainstream consumption.
Yeah, definitely. In a lot of ways, I think good comics have already won and they've got a real mainstream audience at this point. Like I think a lot of the best-selling comics are certainly not superheroes. For example, I mean, our good friend Ted Anderson writes My Little Pony, one of the best-selling comics out there.
Is it really?
Walking Dead is one of the best-selling comics out there. Well, I know,
and it's funny because like there's like Raina Telgemeier's Smile is one that I think about a lot because it's like that's in Target. Like, I mean,
the good comics have won out over the crap. The fanboys just haven't realized it yet.
Part of it too is just like getting the public perception of what comics are and just sort of realizing they're a lot more fragmented than people think they are.
Well, it's interesting too, just because I don't, like, for example, I was voting in the Eisner Awards the other week. Oh, yeah. And I'm looking through this list of comics and there's so few comics that I'm familiar with compared to how I used to know pretty much everything that came out more or less. But now, I mean, there's so much stuff, in so many different genres in comics and so much stuff that isn't even any kind of a genre. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I don't know. Basically, we got SpringCon coming up this weekend, which I'm planning on stopping by.
Yeah, me too.
I don't have a table there this year, but I got some cards printed up, so I'm going to try to sneak them on the freebie table.
I don't have a table there either, but it's actually more fun for me when I don't because then I get to walk around everyone else's table.
I kind of regret not getting a table because I kind of like it, but at the same time, like I don't have to be there the whole weekend.
I really wanted a table this time because I wanted to promote my game. But I'll have more fun not having a table.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with it, and I think right now I'm trying to plan out like what I'm gonna do for the next year or so. Like, you know, am I gonna have Captain Sadness merchandise, or am I gonna wait until I get a bigger audience to print an enough fun book? You know, can I sell an enough fun book on the title alone? Like, is that, because I mean, I don't know, maybe it'll work. But
I always thought introspective comics was a good title for your stuff.
It's
too,
weird
because
yeah,
more than the Buddhism angle. I mean, you've always got thinking comics.
Yeah. Although I don't know, I've been trying to.
It's interesting because there's been such a thread of different things that have gone through your head over the course of the comics you've done that it's really a pretty compelling series of books.
I've definitely grown up a little bit, and I don't know. It's hard to say, like, because a lot of the Enough Fun stuff is not terribly thoughtful. Some of it is.
Well, I mean, it's not trying to be. It's trying to be funny.
It's a lot of dumb jokes, like, which is kind of refreshing. Like, I kind of like doing that, but
you're good at it. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. So I'm kind of like, am I in the middle of a brand transition or something like that? I don't know, but
it definitely seems like a whole different kind of comic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I'll do like some kind of like social commentary thing or something, but I mean, I don't know. I think that if anything, the Captain Sadness stuff is very much in the line of like the introspective comic stuff, because that tends to deal with like deeper sense of meaninglessness of life.
I don't know. I mean, Captain Sadness seems like the opposite end of Enough Fun. It's like they balance each other.
No, that's part of why
you could almost package them together, like have a flip book where one side was Enough Fun and the other side was Captain Sadness.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of by design. I mean, that's part of the reason I still do it, because I still like having that outlet. Yeah,
but they're both gag comics. It's just one of the gags is like very dark.
Yeah, one of the gags is very dark, but not drawn in a dark way. So yeah. All right. Well, I think that's probably enough for now. So you've got what are you on Facebook on the? How do you identify?
Lord knows. Stephen Stwalley on Facebook. Or
Google Stephen Stwalley.
Stwallskull.com or the game I'm going to be doing the Kickstarter for is at squirmish.net.
Okay, squirmish.net.
So that's probably the best one to check out. So
okay, and yeah, I've got stuff at ryandow.com, enoughfuncomics.tumblr.com, captainsadnesscomic.tumblr.com, and so that's it. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Ryan.